Welcome home, brave Tarnished. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and I'm very excited to finally be unboxing several components from my all-in tier of the Elden Ring, the board game Kickstarter. I've eagerly awaited Steamforged Games' take on this IP, wondering how a tabletop experience could ever compare to the extensive amount of time I spent in the lands between. Elden Ring is one of my favorite fantasy properties of all time, and while what you see here is only box 1 of 2 of the shipment that I received, there is still so much more content, so much more story to tell and gameplay opportunity that I hope Steamforged Games will continue to take advantage of the expansive world of Elden Ring and continue to release more core sets and expansions based on the IP. Elden Ring is one of those board game experiences that has different points of entry, different core sets, and if you'd like to start out with something that's more accessible in terms of price and difficulty, then you'll start here with the Weeping Peninsula core set. And that is where we will begin, at the Weeping Peninsula. This should be a lower priced option than the other core sets that will be available. As far as back of the box fare goes, we're pretty basic. We just have one of the most important quotes from the game, but we get a beautiful preview of the map of the lands between. To be honest with you, I prefer the presentation that we have here. It makes this seem like an eloquent, prestigious, expensive experience. Nothing under the lid but void black. Upon opening the box, we are presented with Elden Ring the board game's Weeping Peninsula 66-page rulebook, which we'll skim in just a moment. We are also presented with the 54-page scenario book. This scenario book boasts about 20 hours of gameplay. It's 54 pages long and will take multiple playthroughs, obviously, across a single campaign to explore every bit of the Weeping Peninsula. The meat and potatoes of Elden Ring's combat system, the encounter books, of which there are 4, are next. Labeled A through D, these accommodate a different number of Tarnished who are playing the game, but they also fit together to allow for multiple Tarnished to participate in giant boss battles. And when I say giant, just know that some of the enemies in Elden Ring are absolutely massive. We have a tray of minis that we can look at right now, and we will do so before advancing. I present to you the Rotten Stray. Dog enemies in these Souls-type games are always a nightmare until you understand their attack patterns, then they're all the same. I also present to you the Misbegotten. I think the detail on the miniatures is great. It accurately shows every detail down to the feather or musculature of every enemy encountered in Elden Ring. In fact, there are details that I didn't notice before now that I'm viewing the enemy in a state of forced idle. When this curved shiv isn't constantly being swung at my head, I can appreciate the design of this monster. Next, we have a bit of a flyer. The opposite side gives us the campaign structure, and this explains that once you have completed the Weeping Peninsula, you can go on to play Realm of the Grafted King, and then move on from there to Stormveil Castle. But worry not, if you'd rather dive straight into Realm of the Grafted King and begin your journey in Limgrave, you can do that as well. You can think of this 20-hour campaign as the preview experience to the meat of the game. The Realm of the Grafted King actually makes a lot of sense as a starting point, since that's where the video game starts us, with the ability to then journey into the Weeping Peninsula, or Stormveil Castle, or whatever you want. The game comes with 4-player dashboards. Since I went with the all-in tier of the Kickstarter campaign, I got the updated version of these dashboards separately. These are the ones that I will use during gameplay. We have room for our armor, weapons, talisman, class features, profile traits, combat deck discard, attribute deck, and relevant discard deck, as well as 4 tokens and a buff. It'll be interesting to see how we can build our character, but make no mistake, you can absolutely build your character from the ground up. After choosing one of the templated Tarnished, you will be able to play to their strengths, train their weaknesses, and customize a character that fits your playstyle. This game comes with trackers in the form of dials. We can assemble these. Have you heard of Dark Souls? It has a bit of a reputation. It is notoriously difficult, actually a notorious difficult series of video games. There are 3 Dark Souls games, a game called Bloodborne, a game made by the same company called Sekiro, and Elden Ring. And these make up the brunt of what are called Soulsborne games. Soulsborne, or Souls-like, kind of being a genre definer. They are known for their crushing difficulty, but also for their very rewarding feeling of accomplishment once you have busted through those barriers of difficulty. I think that there will be moments in the Elden Ring board game that are like that. Elden Ring is also part of this Soulsborne genre, so it stands to reason that while the game itself literally takes mechanics from the Dark Souls trilogy, it is, as the newest entry in the series and the newest game developed by FromSoft, not counting Armored Core 6, the most refined version so far of all of the traits and principles that make up the design of Dark Souls. If you are interested in playing Dark Souls, and you are wondering about playing Elden Ring first, I can highly recommend experiencing Elden Ring first because it is one of the most accessible points of entry in the entire series. And when I say series, I'm really talking about theme in terms of gameplay mechanics, combat, difficulty. They're not really part of the same universe. You don't have to experience Dark Souls, any of the Dark Souls games, or Bloodborne, or Sekiro, to play and highly enjoy Elden Ring. We'll be able to assemble those a little bit later. Let's get through some of the other tokens and tiles in here. For a blessing, the game doesn't really come with that many. We've got what appear to be bleed tokens, stakes of Marika, areas in which you are allowed to summon spirit ashes, flasks of crimson tears, basically a way to heal your health. This is basically the way to heal your mana. We have slight differences in color between the two. This one's red, this one's blue. Sites of Grace, and we have tokens to represent the 4 Tarnished classes that come with this game, namely the Astrologer, Prophet, Hero, and Bandit. We've also got tokens that are just black, and I wonder if there's a purpose for that, or if it's just part of the cutting template. Our next token sheet has summoning pool markers, tokens for poison, tokens for resources you can get from corpses. These mark the location of merchants, and then we have the token versions of the Spirit Ashes. The Spirit Ashes being summonable help. These tokens represent hardships, which are events that your Tarnished will go through throughout the course of playing. These are objective tokens. Various materials, spirit springs, a marker representing the passage of time, and a crone. Usually, board games are going to have a lot of weight due to the presence of one or more materials presently in the box. Sometimes this weight is due to an over-encumbrance of cards. Other times, it's a massive amount of tokens and tiles, map boards and the like. Sometimes it's because there is an unruly amount of miniatures. Pretty much every board game is going to have a balance of these elements. Some games are going to have a lot of one, and that's going to kind of define them in the eyes of the board game storage steward, aka the owner. I'm very happy that we only have 2 sheets of tokens. Yes, we have a third punch out, but that is for assembling our trackers. However, Elden Ring's immense weight is due to the amount of cards that is included with the game. We have an enormous amount of cards. These little plastic bits will help us put together our trackers for our 4 players. By the way, this can be played with just 1 player. You can solo this entire experience just as you can the video game. We have countless decks to go through, and I don't think I should go through every deck, but I will gloss over at least all of the decks. This is the rune deck. On the back of each card is an amount of runes, from 5 to 40. Runes being somewhat the currency of the world of Elden Ring. You can use these to trade for items, and you can use them to level up in the video game. Next up are materials, items that you can get from different locations, from different sources, from ruins, for example. You will be able to get a variety of materials such as cave moss, mushrooms, poison blooms, beast livers, and old fangs. From corpses, you'll be able to get smoldering butterflies, cracked pots, human bone shards, golden sunflowers, and lumps of flesh. From beasts, we can acquire much the same materials, but add sliver of meat and beast liver to the list. From flora, we can obtain herba, mushroom, arteria leaf, as well as a couple of other familiar items. At this point, it's evident that there's a short list of materials, and depending on your circumstances, you have a higher or lower chance of getting a certain material that you're after. This particular stack of cards also comes with crafting recipes. With crafting recipes, you can create items such as the Beast Lure Pot, the Rancor Pot, the Pickled Turtleneck, the Blood Grease. We have what appears to be 2 confoundingly similar weather decks with results on the back, such as Time Passes and Sunrise, flip the time token. Eventful Night, draw a card from the event deck, a Sunset card to flip the time token, and Eventful Day, draw a card from the event deck. We have a Consumables deck with items that you can use, such as the Rancor Pot, the Beast Lure Pot, the Pickled Turtleneck, and Blood Grease, just multiples of the same cards. Finally, we have Stake of Marika cards and Murmurings of the Crone cards. Doubtless, these are markers more than they are meant to be drawn. I see you catching glimpses of the miniatures in the back. We have here the Winged Misbegotten, very similar in appearance to the Misbegotten that we looked at earlier. These have much larger wings, they can fly, and they prefer ranged combat. We also have the Scaly Misbegotten. These enemies are not to be trifled with. They are to be taken seriously and put down as quickly as possible, while also being very mindful of the distance between you and that long axe. Not to mention the tail. We have a set of deck separators for the Prophet, Astrologer, Hero, Bandit, Vault, Armory, Roundtable Hold, Bosses, Enemies, Hardships, Events, and Guidances of Grace. I love that the game comes with card deck separators. They are perfectly sized to just barely show you the category of deck so that there's no guesswork involved. This is the combat deck. It is 228 cards full. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be drawing from these 228 cards. The combat deck is comprised of very specific actions or specific items or weapon abilities that I know will belong to very specific enemies. Each card is also numbered, very small, bottom dead center, which tells me that we're going to be doing a lot of deck searching to get the cards that we want for a specific encounter. You will not want to shuffle these. For example, we have Sidestep, which is a defense card, obviously used to avoid receiving damage from attacks by enemies. This is the name of the card. This will be where the card's FP cost is, if it has one. The card's block value, in this case, it's a 1. The card's special rules, if it has any, will go here, and the card's defense profile or profiles will go here on the bottom half. The player will allocate a symbol and choose which of the effects to resolve. Let's look at an attack card now. This is Light Strike. It has a block value of 1, an attack area of a single square adjacent to the user, no special rules, no chain, which will appear here if the card can be chained, and has 2 attack profiles. It looks like this is going to require a strength symbol to allocate to inflict 2 damage on the enemy, or a common symbol to inflict 1 damage. There are also cards that represent specific weapons or armor, shields rather, main hand, offhand gear, and they'll tell you which cards will go with that specific piece of equipment. For example, the Gilded Iron Shield here will allow you to come into possession of the next 6 cards in this deck. 2 magic resiliences, a block, a sorceress defense, a scholar's shield, and a parry. And those are indeed the next cards in the deck. I hesitate to call this giant stack of cards a deck. Now the rulebook actually refers to that giant 228 stack of cards as the Armory, and the next 103 cards are actually part of the Vault deck. They all seem to be mixed up and of different types of cards, but they are actually numbered and in order, so you don't want to shuffle these or attempt to sort them either. Our map deck seems to point to specific places in the scenario book, named after actual places from the video game. First steps, for example, in the Weeping Peninsula. Exploration, turn to page 10 of the scenario book to begin, whereas the next map card is for the Bridge of Sacrifice and instructs us to turn to page 12 of the scenario book to begin. Past the Bridge of Sacrifice is a dungeon card instructing us to turn to page 20, and the next map card is a gauntlet telling us to turn to page 22. The scenario book is not your typical quest per section book. It is instead laid out such that you will read through choose your own adventure style passages in between the gameplay portions of your campaign. Now, this is part of the gameplay as well, make no mistake. But as a card instructs you to turn to a specific section in the scenario book, you will get through a narrative such as this one. At first, all is darkness. Not night, but an abyss made by the total absence of illumination. Trepidation, fear even, might stain your senses were it not that within this void such concepts were unknown. Then at once the darkness is banished as golden light reaches towards you through the inky blackness, resting your attention. You arise to answer the enigmatic summon. Then you are instructed to, at the start of this scenario, place 3 objective tokens to the side of the playing area. If 1 or more of these tokens remain at the end of the scenario, retrieve card 079 from the vault and shuffle it into the hardship deck. When we finish reading the passage, we will be offered a choice. If you're content to slide into the cavern below, read narrative entry 03. If you'd prefer to try and climb back up, read narrative entry 07. This will go on until we have completed narrative entry 12, and then the scenario will have been completed. Retrieve card 001 from the vault. As per the Path of the Righteous special rule, if there are one or more objective tokens remaining, retrieve card 032 from the vault and shuffle it into the hardship deck. We would then play the game rather than go to the next page for first steps exploration. But if we did, this would explain the scenario setup, what tiles to retrieve and shuffle, placing them face down by the side of the playing area to create the active stack. And yes, this is an exploration type of game where the dungeon, or the playing area rather, is built as you explore its fringes. This has the special rule of quiet surroundings, and during the scenario, we will ignore text on Eventful Day and Eventful Night cards. During the scenario, Tarnished cannot progress or complete their class quests. In order to complete the scenario, the players must complete the Resource Hunt, Honoring the Goddess, and Bloodied Steel quests. Then each player turns to page 4 of an encounter book and attempts the encounter there individually. If a Tarnished is defeated in that encounter, they may reset it and try again, or continue as if they had completed it. If this scenario is completed, each Tarnished gains 10 runes. Then retrieve cards 002, 033, and 034 from the vault. Yeah, one of the important things about this game is that you can die, and it's fine. It's not the end of the scenario. Before we get into the hero miniatures and the boss of this expansion, I want to show you the tiles upon which the game is actually played. And I'm excited to see these as well. These represent artistic interpretations of the lands between, but they are also very much styled after just the map that is available in the video game. These tiles are hexagonal, which are, for many players, the peak of human gameplay potential. When we flip a tile over, we can see that it will have an enemy as well as a flora resource. The tiles all have numbers, so we are able to construct very specific scenarios. This tile has ruins, a spirit spring, and a crone. We will continue on building the map in this manner until we are instructed to place a series of tiles that have a specific numbering and all go together in a specific fashion, like these tiles that represent Castle Mourned, the legacy dungeon of the Weeping Peninsula and the final area of the board game. You'll play Elden Ring with one of these 4 miniatures of these starting classes, and as in the game, you may be able to take every single facet, every trait, every property of your chosen class and actually morph it with a lot of work and wasted time into any of the other classes, but I believe you can actually change classes in the round table hold during gameplay. So these are very lovely detailed miniatures. I expected no less because Steamforged Games generally does a really good job with their miniatures every game, every time. These look like they were taken straight out of the video game, and they probably were, if we're being honest. This is the beginning of either a heavy attack or a specific Ash of War. The very obvious unfortunate thing being apparently 3 of my 4 Tarnished miniatures are damaged. It looks like I will need to work on these to keep them from breaking apart completely. And finally, the big bad miniature that comes with this, the boss of Morn Castle. This is the Weeping Peninsula's final enemy, the Leonine Misbegotten. Those of you who have completed this area of the video game know that you get the Grafted Greatsword for putting down this monstrous enemy. The Grafted Greatsword is indeed the reward also in the board game. You can then continue your adventure onward to the Realm of the Grafted King, or treat the Weeping Peninsula as an expansion to the Realm of the Grafted King and travel backwards. The Realm of the Grafted King should be a little bit harder, so if you have progressed your Tarnished to a point where they can journey beyond into one of the expansions, you may have a much easier time crushing this particular expansion. Our fully assembled health, hand size, and FP tracker. Or is that stamina? Oh well. Combat is a necessary reality of the lands between, where a multitude of foes roam in search of worthy adversaries to cross swords with, endlessly patrol in service to their liege, or simply guard their territory with feral violence. Combat encounters can take place as part of several different scenarios. Regardless of how the players begin a combat encounter, the rules for resolving them are the same. Each combat encounter has a brief in either the scenario book or the encounter books. which details which cards to retrieve, which enemies to set up, any additional special rules that affect that encounter, and any rewards for completing it. On this grid, miniatures can move orthogonally in any direction, but they have to stay on their side. They cannot cross the red line. This is a battle system more about positioning and where your mini is placed. This is a battle system more about positioning and orientation and strategizing ahead to figure out where your Tarnished has the highest chance of dealing the most damage in as few turns as possible, while also mitigating as much damage from the enemy as they possibly can. Keywords on the Tarnished side of the area, for example, include move, reposition, and stand fast, as well as critical hit, and the enemy area can contain the keywords critical hit, armored, and powerful attack. Combat is simple enough, with the Tarnished being able to, on their turn, perform up to 3 actions, repeat the same action any number of times, provided they do not exceed 3 actions in total, and also follow any rule that states that a given action may be a free action, and thus will not count towards the total number of actions the Tarnished can perform during their turn. But the Tarnished, as actions, can perform the following: move, draw, play, discard, use consumable, flask, or summon. Movement means moving your Tarnished into a square adjacent to your current square. Alternatively, if another Tarnished is in an adjacent square, the 2 Tarnished can switch squares instead. Draw allows the player to draw combat cards up to their hand size, which is variable and changes throughout the game. Play allows the player to play a combat card from their hand. Discard allows the player to discard a combat card, and then either their Tarnished can perform a light attack or they can restore 1 FP. Use consumable means the player resolves the text on a consumable card in their Tarnished's inventory. Flask means the player flips an active flask token on their Tarnished dashboard to the exhausted side and resolves the effect as listed in the rulebook. And summon means that once per encounter, the player adds a spirit ashes to the combat encounter as described on page 52. Now, this isn't going to be a tutorial on how to play the game, so with that being said, there's nothing much else to show about the Weeping Peninsula. As a standalone board game, if you'd like to know whether or not Realm of the Grafted King is right for you and you're on a budget, you might consider getting Weeping Peninsula from Steamforged Games. But if you're absolutely certain that you're going to love playing Elden Ring the board game, I would probably just skip straight on to Realm of the Grafted King, as it's more of a core game system that's true to the experience I believe Steamforged Games wants to provide to players. After all, the Weeping Peninsula is described as an expansion to Realm of the Grafted King, a standalone expansion, but an expansion nonetheless. And the Weeping Peninsula is not an area in which we begin the actual video game campaign. Not that the board game has to mimic the video game on every front, it can't do that. By the way, we haven't really looked inside of these that detailed. The encounter books can go together, as I just showed you, to show larger encounters, ones in which multiple Tarnished can take place, but that huge map we just looked at was the Tombsward Ruins. We can do much smaller maps as well, such as the Church of Pilgrimage. This offers the Tarnished a 3x4 play area, 4x3 I suppose, as well as the enemy, in which both have critical hit keywords. Then our setup will actually be on the opposite page, showing you where the enemies will go depending on whether you have rolled combat encounter A, B, or C. I use rolled ironically here because the game is actually diceless. It does not come with any dice. For reasons of exploration, the tokens are necessary. Otherwise, I really don't think we would have a lot of tokens to play with. All 4 of these encounter books are the exact same in every way, except for these multiple book battle areas that accommodate larger battles. And when you see some of the enemies that I have to show you later, you'll understand why you need 4 books to determine their placement and orientation during combat. Tarnished, thank you very much for watching. I hope that you'll comment whatever you like down below, and I will see you in the next unboxing, and many surprises to come. Until then, may we meet again, my lambkin. If you liked this video, don't thank me, thank my patrons and sponsors, without whom there would be far less AshQuest.